All right, strap in Magic fans, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of cEDH.
Ah, CED.
Competitive Elder Dragon Highlander, for those who are new here.
That's right.
And it's basically where the real titans of Magic, the Gathering, duke it out.
Think of it like this. Casual commander, you're building a campfire. CEDH, you are weaponizing the sun.
We're talking next-level Magic, and we're here to break down exactly how these players are doing it.
Right.
We've got our hands on a recent analysis of the cEDH metagame. All the juicy details are in the show notes for you.
Of course.
But first, we've got to start with a power couple that everyone in cEDH both knows and fears. Thrasios and Tymna.
Oh, a classic pairing.
Yeah, just hearing those names probably makes some players sweat a little, am I right?
And for good reason. Thrasios and Tymna, they're all about card advantage. And let's be real, having more options in Magic, that's never a bad thing, is it?
No, not at all. But for our listeners who might not be at the cEDH level yet, break down card advantage for us. What makes it so important in this format?
So, card advantage basically boils down to having more cards in your hand than your opponent,
Oh,
which
right.
means more choices, more plays, more ways to completely outmaneuver your opponent.
More ways to crush your enemies, see? Like
There
the
we
way
go.
you think.
Exactly.
So how does this power couple, Thrasios and Tymna, how do they use that to dominate?
They are masters of it. Tymna, every time she hits the battlefield, draws you cards. You're constantly reloading.
Nice.
And then you've got Thrasios, who can either draw you even more cards or convert your mana into just raw damage. Talk about a 1-2 punch.
It's like the brains and the brawn. The Batman and Oracle of cEDH. And the article even talked about how adaptable they are, which is kind of terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine, right? You're facing down just this massive wall of creatures.
About to get overrun.
You're about to get overrun. Thrasios and Tymna, they can generate enough mana. Boom. Wipe the board clean with a single spell.
Just like that.
But then on the other hand, if you're facing like a control deck, they can slow it right down, play a more strategic game, pick apart your hand, and just control the entire flow.
It's like they can smell your strategy a mile away and they've already got a counter for it. But every villain, even a power couple, they've got a weakness.
Oh, for sure.
And for Thrasios and Tymna, it seems like, well, it's kind of their popularity.
It's true. When a strategy is this effective, everyone and their grandmother knows to expect it, right? Players come prepared.
Right.
They're ready to disrupt, particularly their mana generation, which is really their lifeblood. You cut off their resources and suddenly they're not quite so scary.
It's like knowing that Batman always carries a smoke pellet.
Right.
So you bring your gas mask,
Exactly.
you're ready for it. Okay, but enough about dynamic duos. Let's talk about a commander that needs no partner in crime. Kess, Dissident Mage. If Thrasios and Tymna are the power couple, Kess is that brilliant, maybe slightly unhinged sorcerer who can just unravel your entire game plan.
Yes. And in a completely different way.
Right.
See, Thrasios and Tymna, they excel at card advantage, but Kess thrives on recursion.
Recursion. There's another one for some of our newer listeners.
Right. Think of it like this. You finally managed to counter that one spell that was about to absolutely wreck you.
Okay.
But with Kess, it's not gone. It's just waiting in the graveyard for another chance.
So it can come back and haunt you.
Oh, it will come back to haunt you.
Now, speaking of graveyard, you got to unpack that a little bit because it's not just a discard pile in cEDH, is it?
No. The graveyard is practically a second hand.
Oh, okay.
Cards like Kess can just pull spells back from the graveyard, essentially letting you cast them again, which is, let's be honest, a nightmare for opponents.
I bet.
You think you've dealt with a threat, and boom, it's back to bite you a couple turns later.
So if everyone is leveraging the graveyard in cEDH, I'm guessing there are ways to counter that. Enter Graveyard Hate.
Laughing. There's always an answer. Graveyard hate cards, exile cards from the graveyard, poof, gone, disrupting that whole game plan.
So you're saying Kess can be shut down by these Graveyard Hate cards.
They're definitely a weakness.
So it's this constant back and forth. You build your strategy, you counter their counter.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so exciting. You're not just playing your deck, you're playing against the entire metagame. You have to anticipate what others are bringing to the table and how you can counter it.
You got to be one step ahead.
Always.
Now, speaking of counters and strategies that rely on the graveyard, let's move on to a deck that takes this to a whole new level. Grixis Breach combo. If Kess just dipping their toes into the graveyards, Grixis Breach combo is like diving in head first. This deck is famous for these explosive plays and, dare I say, unfair wins.
Unfair. Well, that's a matter of perspective, isn't it? But I see where you're coming from. Grixis Breach combo, it's all about that massive value from the graveyard, and the heart of it, it's this one card. Underworld Breach.
Underworld Breach, okay.
Think about it. You cast a spell from your graveyard, not just once like Kess, but maybe multiple times in a single turn. And then again with another spell. It's a chain reaction, spirals out of control so quickly.
So you're talking combos that can just end the game out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Sounds fun, but I'm guessing it can't be as easy as play Breach and watch your opponents cry.
Chuckles. No, like any good combo deck, Grixis Breach takes, really precise timing, gotta manage your resources, the right cards in hand at the right time, having the mana for it, and of course a way to protect that precious graveyard.
So graveyard hate, even more vital here.
Oh, you better believe it. One well-timed Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, suddenly that Grixis Breach player's got nothing.
Their win condition just vanished.
Poof. It's this constant game of cat and mouse. Can you dodge their defenses while you set up your own win?
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
I like it. And speaking of terrifying, let's talk about a deck that takes high risk, high reward to the extreme. Ad nauseum combo. If Grixis Breach is playing with fire, Ad nauseum is juggling chainsaws blindfolded.
Now that is a scary visual.
Right.
And pretty accurate. Ad nauseum combo, definitely not for the faint of heart. This deck lives and dies on one spell. Ad nauseum.
Okay.
Which lets you draw a crazy number of cards, but
There's always a but.
it costs you life points to do it.
So you're making yourself lose life to potentially win.
You got it. A calculated gamble.
High risk, high reward for sure.
Exactly. You're trying to draw into that perfect combination of cards, win instantly, but if you don't, or your opponent messes with you, you could just draw yourself to death.
Talk about living on the edge. Now, the article mentioned this card, Cephalid Illusionist. And it sounds like it's pretty crucial for ad nauseum. What's so special about it?
The Cephalid Illusionist, he's what takes ad nauseum from I'm drawing a lot of cards to I win right now.
Okay, how?
He lets you stack the top cards of your library. So when you cast ad nauseum, you know exactly what you're getting. No more relying on pure luck, which is important when you're messing with your life total.
I can see that. So it's finding that perfect set of cards for a clean victory. Sounds equal parts amazing and stressful.
Oh, incredibly stressful. Definitely not a deck for someone who can't handle pressure.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But that's what makes cEDH so interesting. That constant back and forth. Gotta adapt, gotta stay ahead.
You've got to be thinking 2-3 steps ahead of your opponent every time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears from combos for a sec. Let's talk about a commander who's all about that direct approach. No fancy combos, no graveyard tricks, just pure aggression. We're talking Najeela, the Blade Blossom, the warrior queen herself.
Ah, Najeela, a classic. Where other decks are trying to outsmart their opponents, Najeela, she just wants to overwhelm them.
I respect that.
Right. It's all about building a massive army of warriors, attacking again and again and again.
It's like my kind of party. I imagine things can get out of hand pretty quickly once Najeela hits the field.
Oh, you have no idea. Suddenly, every creature you play could be the winning attack. Each time Najeela attacks, makes a copy of herself, ready to swing in for damage.
So it's just this never-ending wave of...
Relentless onslaught.
Yeah.
Opponents don't stand a chance.
All right, but even the best warrior is going to have a weakness, right? The analysis we read, they mentioned that control decks can really give Najeela a hard time. How so?
Control decks, they're all about control. Dictating the pace of the game, they use counter magic to stop you from doing what you want to do, board wipes to clear the board.
So they just shut her down before she could even get going?
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like all that power, all that aggression, and they just completely neutralize it.
Fascinating how every strategy has a counter strategy.
That's cEDH for you. Always got to be ready for anything.
It's like they say, expect the unexpected.
Right. Never a dull moment.
Speaking of not dull, we've covered a ton today.
Yeah.
Power couples, spellcasters, graveyard shenanigans, warrior queens. Where does it end?
And that's just scratching the surface of the cEDH metagame, really.
Right.
The best part is it's always changing, always evolving.
Always keeps you on your toes.
New cards, new strategies. What works today might be gone tomorrow. You got to stay adaptable.
That's the name of the game.
Mm.
Well, before we wrap up, I wanted to leave our listeners with something to think about. Out of all these decks we talked about, which one called to you?
Yeah, which one sparked that little competitive fire?
Exactly. You see yourself as the mastermind, carefully managing every resource with Thrazios and Timna.
Or are you more drawn to that, I don't know, forbidden knowledge, wielding the power of the graveyard like Kess?
Maybe you just want to watch the world burn with ad nauseum.
Go out in a blaze of glory.
Or maybe, just maybe, you're ready to conquer with Najeela's unstoppable army.
It's all about finding that playstyle that really clicks for you. Master it.
and then dominate.
Exactly, and then come back next time and tell us all about it.
We want to hear all about it. Well, that's going to do it for us this week.
Until next time.
Stay sharp, stay strategic.
And may your top decks be ever in your favor. See you all next time.